we doing tonight? Yeah, how's everybody doing tonight? All right. So, I was recording a school of fish the other day, and let me tell you, it was almost impossible to keep them in key. Know why? Because you can't tune a fish. But you can tune your drums. Stay tuned to find out more.
LaBella, bring the heat.
What's up, everybody? My name's Chris, and welcome back to another edition of Tech Tip Tuesdays. If you're new to my channel and you're looking for more mixing and production tips, as well as industry advice and or new beats 3 times a week, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of tuning your drum samples and how you can actually use snares and hi-hats to make chords. Most people, when they think about drums and percussive instruments, they don't really think about them having a pitch. This couldn't be further from the truth. Drums, just like any other instrument, have a fundamental frequency which gives it its pitch, as well as higher harmonic frequencies that resonate and give it its color and tone. The difference between drums and most other instruments, though, is the sheer amount of higher harmonic frequencies in the sound. For example, something like a kick drum has the initial snap and thud around 60 hertz, but then it has higher harmonic frequencies which range all the way up to around 10 kilohertz to 15 kilohertz. This wide range of frequencies is what gives the kick drum its color, character, and helps it cut through the mix. Unfortunately, that's also what makes hearing the pitch of the drum slightly more nuanced and subtle than hearing the pitch of something like a piano or a guitar, for example. So let's go ahead and dive into Maschine here, and I'll show you a little example of the process of tuning drums while I'm making a beat. Let's go ahead and take a look at this session here. This is from one of my recent Freebeat Fridays. Let's just give it a listen all the way through with the drums untuned. This is just how they came in the sample packs. They don't sound the worst necessarily, but we're going to make them sound even better. So the first thing that what we need to do is figure out the key of the song so that we can tune these drums to be in key with the song. So since I played these chords, we can just look at the chords that I played. Now usually the key of the song would be like the root note of the first chord of the song. Usually the root note is the bottom note of a chord, but these are second inversion chords, which mean that basically the fifth note is the bottom chord, the first and the third note, they get moved up an octave. So basically the B is the bottom note, but that's not the root of the chord. The root of the chord is the E. So the E goes. So this chord is an E minor triad, which means that our track is in E minor. But if you don't know the key, you don't need to panic, because we can just figure it out by ear, just by listening to the drums and seeing what sounds good. So let's go ahead and see how we would do that with this kick drum. So this is how the kick sounds. Nice punchy kick. And the problem with tuning kick drums is that it's hard to tell the difference between you can tell the difference if you're just listening to the kick, but once you add in these other things, it's really hard to tell which of those is actually in tune. But when you listen on like a club system or a car that has really nice bass in it, you will notice if it's out of tune, and you might not be able to put your finger on it, but you will notice. So what I like to do, since it's so hard to figure out the pitch of the drum when it's that low, is tune things up 2 octaves. That way we can play around with the keyboard here, the piano roll, and find something that actually fits with the chords. So in this case, we're actually going up another octave, a third octave. So you can put it on that B right there. And then bring it back down to the original octave. So anytime I import a new sound into Maschine, I'll tune it to a C. So, for example, I took this one. I figured out that a C was 5 steps down from the original note. So the original one was 1, 2, 3, 4. Was up here. And so I tuned it down 5 so that that C, is a true C. And that way I can just play around with the notes that I know are in the chord, which are E, G, and a B, and see which one fits best in the mix here. So that's that E that we found originally, but I'm gonna bring it down even further to this B, just to give it even more that low end thud, and really make things thump. So then we move on to the snare drums. Listen to those solo. So I have 2 different snare drums going on here. So let's just listen to this main one. Alright, so then we just do the same thing. We play around and find where it sounds good. So since this one I already have tuned already, 2 down. See, because the original one was right there. That's a C. Tuned it 2 down so that this is a true C right here. So then we tune this snare here to the E. Because the E sounds good through all the chords, because that's the key of the song. So the E would also be known as what's called a tonic note, which is basically just another way of saying something that sounds good with all the chords in the song. And then, so the nice thing about snares is they sound really good when they're layered. So I added a second snare here that, if you look closely, it's not quite, doesn't have the same timing as the first snare. It's a little bit later. And this is so that that attack of that first snare, this attack right here, so that can snap through just before the second snare comes in. Otherwise, if both of these attacks were going on at the same time, there would just be a massive peak and it would clip the track. But moving it back a little bit allows for each of them to have their own space, and it also gives things a little bit more depth, and all around it just sounds a little thicker and fatter. So it sounds like an actual flam, right? So this one, this is the untuned one of this, and then so I did the same method of tuning this. So this is a C, same as this one. So this one, the main snare, we tune to an E. So the second snare, what I'm going to do is tune it to a different note so we can make a little chord. So this one I tune to the B. So there's the E of the original, or the E of the other one, and the B in this one. So listen to them again untuned. And then listen to them again tuned up. So you can tell it really fits with the chord progression a lot smoother. Alright, so then we move on to the hats. When I'm searching for the hat sound, I do the same method as I did with the kicks, except I do it in reverse. So instead of pitching things up an octave, I pitch things down an octave and try to find the note that way. So this one, I tuned it up 2, so that this is a C, and then tuned it down 1. So we have the hat and a B. Like we could try the hat with the E, but that just sounds a little too harsh for my ears. That sounds like it's not going to actually sound good. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind when you're tuning your drums. Like going for the perfect pitch isn't always necessarily what's going to sound the best. You just have to make sure that things fit within context of everything else. Like that's what it's really all about is the context. Okay, so the cymbal started in a natural C, so we just brought that down to the B because again, bringing it up to the E would just be too much. So this is what the drums all sound like now. Untuned. And then tuned again. So also can't forget about the subs. So let's get these subs tuned up right. So even though the subs are so low in frequency, it's easier to hear what frequency they are than it would be with a kick, because usually a sub is just basically like a sine wave or maybe a couple of sine waves, but it doesn't have as much thick harmonic information as like a kick or a snare does. So it's easier to tell what the exact pitch is. So the same thing here, I have everything tuned to a natural C. So then with this we want to follow the root notes. So I'm not going to go into my full sub chain here, but one thing that I have on all my subs is the R bass from waves. And so what I like to do with the R bass is I like to automate the frequency here to correspond with the notes of the sub. And since it is just a frequency and it's not the notes, it makes it a little bit hard, but fortunately, it's all just math. And so if you go over to studioguru.co, they have a nice note frequency chart that'll tell you the exact frequencies of every note and every octave. So we're looking at an E, which is around 41.2 hertz. So that's where I put the R bass, and that'll just help that frequency specifically cut through a little bit more so that the bass isn't so muddy all around. And then you see it moves up to 44 for the F and down to 37 for the D, and then back to around 41, 42. And then let me just show you how that would sound without the automation. It's a subtle difference, and you probably can't hear it on your laptop speakers or your phone. You can hear it a little bit in headphones, but you definitely hear it if you have like an actual subwoofer or a nice system that can accurately reproduce those low-end frequencies. So let's hear how that sounds all in the whole mix with everything else in here. So the most apparent change within the mix is that hi-hat, but the snares are also pretty apparent, and all in all I think the kick is just as apparent as everything else as well, especially if you're listening on like a good system. So I hope you can hear the difference in how those all sound and why it's important to tune your drums while you're producing. Real quick, just a couple more tips that I like to use. Sometimes when I do my snares, I'll automate the pitch wheel and just bend it just like a few cents in either direction for each note. So you can see the automation of the pitch wheel that I did right here. So every other three, I go up and down, and gives the snare a little bit more breath. So. And then you can do the same thing with the hats too. So using the pitch bend to give static snares and hats just a little bit more life and authentic feel, because when an actual drummer hits a snare, there's about 1,000 different sounds that can be made on the same snare drum head. So just having the one tap 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 is completely different than You know. Before I forget, let's give a big shout out to the winner of last week's Free Beat Friday giveaway. If you or an artist you know wants a free beat, make sure you comment on my Friday videos within the first 24 hours. I pick one person and let them pick any beat in my store for an absolutely free, high quality, untagged wave download that they can use for profit. Oh, you're a producer? Feel free to take that beat, resample it, and make it into something even cooler and unique to you. If you have any questions about tuning your drums or suggestions for future Tech Tip Tuesday videos, make sure you leave a comment down below. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you don't miss next week's video. Until then, peace.
LaBella.